So we had a conversation on mental just the other time. There's a continuation of this conversation because it is very key, it is very important. It is not only a problem for the Ugandans in diaspora, but it is also for Ugandans, in particular for us people, you as an individual. And it's interesting, today we have ladies in the house only. Allow me say thank you very much, ladies, for making time. Noting that mental illnesses, mental challenges affect us more than men. And if you look at the stories around the world, really women and children are affected. So it is an honor. Grace Obalim, I'm very glad to have you, a clinical psychologist and mental health expert. We also have Janet Kantalama, a psychologist and director, Safe Places Uganda. Thank you very much, ladies, for joining us. Miriam Kyomugasho is our in-house person here. Thank you very much for joining us and for making time. So this is the second episode of Mental Wellness for Ugandans in Diaspora. If I could quickly do a recap of what happened last time we had the same conversation. People were highlighting long hours of work, immigration challenges, domestic violence, grief, because they are in the diaspora and, cannot really bury or be there for their families when they lose a loved one. Isolation because you're in a foreign country, financial challenges every other time. And so we figured there's more to all this. I want to begin with Grace Obalim, a clinical psychologist. The other day we had reports that over 41 million people in Uganda are mentally challenged. Grace, according to your work, according to your exposure, according to the things you have encountered and people you have encountered, what seems to be the biggest challenge regarding mental wellness?
Thank you so much, Lynn. And I want to start by saying that it feels good to be back again on the CCG platform. It's always a platform that has provided focus for mental health through the Women's Show, and now we are having for Ugandans in Diaspora. So I must say shout out to the different persons that work within CCG. We need as much as possible such spaces to be able for us to provide information and speak about this. I like calling it a subject that people look at it like it's so foreign, it's so new, and it's so strange that not very many people seems to understand. Like Lynn said, my name is Grace Obalim. I'm a clinical psychologist by profession, and I work with an NGO that is called TPO Uganda. We provide community-based mental health in over 47 districts. And I'm also one of the leadership of the Uganda National Mental Health Working Group, a group that brings together all the different partners and stakeholders that provide mental health services in different capacities in this country. Lynn, thank you for bringing me up to speed with the first episode that took place. Looking at the things that people have highlighted, it's definitely typical with being out of the country. It's not easy to be away from your home. They say that when you go out of the country, you go for greener pastures. Yes, there could be better jobs, there's better pay, there's better health services, but there is those negativity that comes with it. Being alone, not being able to be with your loved ones, not being able to interact with people, eat the local food. I was out of the Uganda for about 5.5 years. In the 5 years, the tiny little things that I missed the most was just waking up to eat just the basic fresh patoke that that is properly mashed. And it would sometimes put me down so badly. So being out of the country comes with a lot of those things. And definitely, I totally agree with all the issues that were highlighted in the past talk show. Your question is, what are the challenges that are in regards to mental health of people? And you quoted a news headline that made people almost go mad, that 14 million Ugandans are mentally unwell. And when you look at 14 million Uganda, the population of Uganda, we are about 43 to 45 million. Meaning 14 million Uganda puts us at 32. It means 32% of the Ugandan population, according to that headline, are having mental health issues. Lynn, I want to first give a brief definition of mental health. When I do that, I am hoping that me, you, and everyone else who is listening will be able to tell whether that headline was true or it was correct to be said like that now. Mental health is, first, mental health is ability, my ability, me and you, to be able to cope with the daily life challenges that we are faced with, cope with the losses that we are faced with. And when we are in a position to know our strengths and weaknesses, what can we do and what can we not do? And as we cope with daily challenges, we are making contributions towards our life and the people around us. That is mental health. That is a normal part of mental health where me and you are. Now, when we talk about mental health challenges, we are looking at, in simple terms, the diseases, the sicknesses that affect this normal aspect of our health, the sicknesses that affect your ability to know what your strengths and weaknesses are, the sicknesses that affect your ability to cope with daily life challenges. Now, I want to throw this back to us, food for thought. When we look at Ugandans, having gone through COVID, 2 years of lockdown, Uganda went into history. We have had the longest shutdown of school, okay? The longest globally almost. And then people have been able to thrive and survive throughout the COVID. Uganda is one of the countries that so many people seems to want to learn from in how we manage COVID, regardless of our poor health system, by the way, that's surprisingly. Then now we are having high prices. On last week, I was driving back from work, and I saw a guy driving a very beautiful car, a BMW, it's my dream car. And he was putting fuel in it using like a small, a jerrycan. And I'm like, this thing is bad, but we are still surviving. We are moving. I have been in cities where you cannot walk for more than 3 minutes without seeing a person who is mentally insane. Now, looking at all this, I want to throw back to us food for thought. Do we agree with that news or with that statistic? As a professional, I worry. If we are to say 32 Ugandans are having active mental health challenge, active, meaning the mental health status has been affected by 1 or 2 of the mental health disease. Lynn, I tell you for free, we'll be in a crisis. We'll be in a terrible crisis. All this resilience, all this coping ability, all this turnaround that we are seeing in the country would be a very big challenge. I'm not saying anything now. What are some of the challenges that are in regards to mental health? One of them is that I've talked about, statistics. People make statements. There's statements that people make that in the bigger picture and in our field of practice, by the time you come to say 32% of Ugandans are having active mental health disorder, that already worries me as a mental health practitioner. It worries me about the future of this country. It worries me about the physical or the wellness of the people of this country. It worries me about the level of resilience that the people in this country portray. So statements, lack of knowledge, lack of awareness. What kind of statement can we make that can embrace, that can make people feel embraced, that can make people feel like, yeah, this makes me feel comfortable. So those are some of the things. A headline, newspaper saying 14 million. I got calls from my friends that are like, oh, Grace, what is happening in your country? The second thing is resources. I started by appreciating CCG. This is not my first time for being on this platform. I've been on the women's show several times where they focus at mental health. Not very many people put resources into addressing mental health issues. And then when they look at mental health, they associate it to something that has no feedback, like it has no economical impact to a person. But I like your topic, mental wellness. Mental wellness focuses at the strength, at the ability of a person, at that that competent of me and you that we can be able to provide for this country. So resources, very few platforms like CCG give in time to be able to discuss this topic, to be able to talk about these mental health issues. Added on to the lack of information, very many people don't know about mental health. I struggled when I chose to go do my first degree. My brothers wanted me to go for law. And I told them I want to do psychology, and they're like, join and become a nun, better still, rather than going to Westminster University. It took us 1 year to pick this discussion. But even when I joined, they still kept being hesitant until when I completed my master's in clinical psychology. And I think they felt comfortable that, oh, she did the master's from University of Nairobi out of the country. Maybe that is making a difference. But they still struggle to understand that mental health is a great part of a human being. This is my family. About 2 weeks ago, we lost my uncle, a very, very hilarious man. One of his eldest son is out of this country. He was unable to attend the burial. He has suffered with grief. He's one of my strongest brothers. He's one of I admire him. He's like my role model. But in this time, I'm the one literally holding him from distance. Every time we are having a WhatsApp chat or a video call, he breaks down. Now, these are some of the challenges that comes with being out of the country. He keeps asking, is it true? Has Mzee died? Even when we put him online to attend a burial, he still cannot comprehend it. He keeps saying, until I come and look at the grave, I'll be able to understand this. He started blaming himself. Why did I even leave the country? All these are things that affect a person's wellness when you're out of the country. And my brother is lucky that right now he made a statement 2 days ago and said, thank God you insisted to do this course of yours that nobody understands. Now I'm feeling the impact. It's not only my family. So many people out there don't have the knowledge. I'm glad that Janet is on this call. Janet is my colleague and my friend. She will share with you her experience of how many people walk into their center and they're like, I'm okay. I have no problem. Okay? All these are around information. So these are some of the challenges that we attach to mental health. But the greatest of all in Uganda that I would like to look at is the aspect of stigma. We need to be careful with the words that we use. I highly got offended with that headline in those newspapers. 14 million Ugandans mentally sick. That is not right. We cannot be having such an headline coming out like that. Resources, let's put more resources towards it. Let's share information, and then let's endeavor that we speak out and speak out. Thank you, Lynn.
Thank you very much, Grace, for that. It was very, very insightful and also very worrying when you see such headlines, and you quickly said it almost made many people mad. That was literally saying that that was enough shocker for everybody. So literally, we need to sit down and reevaluate the way we handle and the way we approach mental illness and mental challenges around us. There's a whole lot. So you helped us describe what mental health challenges is and what it entails. Janet, I'm glad to have you on the show. And as Grace already told us that you are going to share the experience of how people walk into your center. Safe Places Uganda. I can only imagine how somebody walks into your place and you're like, so how do we help you? And you're like, I'm fine. And then they're actually not fine. So, Janet, tell us just a little bit of experience of what mental health challenges really, look like in your experience and with the people you deal with. And maybe then we can address and move forward from that.
Thank you very much, Lynn. I'm honored to be on this forum of sharing about mental wellness. Thank you for that invitation, CCG. And I'm glad to find my colleague, Grace. But anyway, maybe for knowing each other, I could just briefly allow video so that we can get to know the people we are speaking with. Hey, Janet here. Okay. So I'm glad to be here, and Grace has given a brief description or an extensive description about mental illness as well as mental health. However, she posed the question to us all that what do we think, if we look at that description, what do we think, and in comparison to the headline that we received of 14 million Ugandans are mentally ill? Her view is she was offended, and she has shared that view with us in the same forum that we're in, the National Working Group of the Mental Health and Psychosocial Support. She shared that view. And how offense I can take it from there is first the language that was used, and then the credibility of the statistics. On the other hand, I want to say that I was not offended by that. I was not offended by that headline. I might question the statistics because as a nation, we actually haven't done an omnibus survey regarding mental illness because of the finances or the funding. However, I liked the fact that it got people talking. I liked the fact that it put emphasis on actually an issue that we are having that is not being given the attention that it deserves. I know it can be questionable. I mean, the 14 million, it makes us all seem like the country is running around not well. But if we look at it and we look at actually some of the symptoms or the causes of mental ill health, for example, the financial constraints, the grief, life changes, unattended to trauma, and then we look at the status of Uganda and the people that are living here, putting in mind that being mentally ill is also on a continuum. You know, it's not that everyone will be severe running around on the streets, that there will be those who are mild, there will be those who are moderate, then there will be those who are severe. So I actually think that if we were to do an omnibus survey of people who are suffering or who are undergoing mental health challenges, then we would be shocked that the statistics might be more alarming than that. Because if Grace can confirm that the smaller studies that have been, the centralized studies in special populations have shown way higher statistics than those. There was a 2019 study in, was it Kamuli and Iganga, that showed a 60.2%. So when you're looking at 32 for the whole nation, then we shouldn't be shocked that if we actually did a study with the prevailing circumstances, knowing the causes of mental illness, most of us know that with the environment that we live in, the environment has a very big impact on whether we stay on level, on whether we can maintain our mental health. So definitely the statistics, yes, we might dispute the fact that we do not have a correct one. I mean, we do not have the latest well-researched information about mental health in Uganda, but from observation and the things that we've seen coming in. So I'll just give an example. She asked about the people that are coming into the center. 2018, 2019, we started operating a private mental health facility in 2017. This was just to give an alternative to Ugandans, that's Safe Places Uganda in Chamba, would give an alternative to Ugandans who were stigmatized about going to Butabika to get an alternative. So we started 2017. 2017, the numbers which were coming in were very small. Even getting clients on a day-to-day would get people who are accountable on our hands. 2018, same situation. 2019, yes, people had started picking up. 2020, we went into the lockdown. Now people started calling our phones, asking, can I talk to someone? 2021, situation, the numbers increased. 2022, it is noticeable that actually people who are seeking help voluntarily and those who are being brought in by their families has increased. That we see young girls, we see young boys making appointments on their own or appointments made on behalf of, by friends for their own, people calling in saying, I'm making an appointment for my friend, and family members bringing in their people for help. That the situation, of course, it's the rates are rising. That is just from observation, and that is only one center, that is Safe Places Uganda. If we talk to my colleagues in the other facilities as well, the numbers are rising. Why? 2 years of lockdown. So much life changes. So many life changes have gone into people's lives. People have lost their jobs. People have lost their loved ones. People have lost opportunities for all the 2 years that we've been in this severe pandemic. Trauma, people have gone through things, gender-based violence, people have been beaten up, they have come to realize their partners are not who they thought they were. They have gone through experiences that they never ever thought, or actually they have been confined with people that have done things to them that they never imagined that it could happen to them. Unresolved grief, then distress, financial distress, that is poverty. If people, some people, you know, Ugandans live hand to mouth. People have gone a year, 2 years without earning. And even when they are earning, the demands on them, because of our excellent nature, one person will support about 6 families. So definitely, if you look at that and the resultant numbers, the situation of people who are suffering mental ill health in Uganda, much as the headline was alarming, it was good to bring it to the fore so that we can deal with it with the same effort it deserves. That we can have that nation talking, we can have people in the diaspora talking, we can have policymakers talking, we can have people that can do something about it talking. So, symptoms that I'm receiving, or we are receiving at the center, as I've told you, most of them people come in with, I don't understand, I need to talk to someone, I just feel like I can't go on anymore. No, the things that they're not understanding. Someone has lost a job, their business has crashed. A person basically has no alternative. That the stressors out there feel like she or he is not worth to live anymore. That their resilience has been exhausted. That they've reached a limit where they cannot go on anymore. Okay, so most of the people that we are receiving are depression cases. People have tried to make sense about the situations that are going on around them, and they have failed. You know, they have failed to keep on level, and we've got depression, anxiety of what is to come, because most of them are getting into new experiences. People are working from home. Those who maintain their jobs working from home. Those who didn't maintain their jobs are looking for new jobs. So there is a lot of anxiety. You know, they are unsure. Then they're even getting, physical symptoms out of that anxiety. People are getting things that feel like heart attacks. And someone comes and says, I freeze every time I think about going back to work. I doubt if my skills are sufficient for the work that I have been given. I even don't know if I can perform. We have students coming in, students saying that I even don't know if I can manage school anymore. No, I have been home for all these 2 years. I don't know if I can go back and ably do it. Substance use disorders. Because of the period that people were, Ugandans say that we drink a lot. Even when we don't have money, we still drink. You can't fail to go to a bar and fail someone to get someone to buy you a beer. Substance use disorders. That people started as a way of consoling themselves. All those who were already drinking actually increased in the volumes they were drinking. Drinking, smoking. Children have got into habits of smoking, eating cookies that are made of weed, ingesting and taking up most of the substances that we would never have known existed. But the rate at which the students or the children are taking them, children have been sexually abused in their home settings. A person comes back and the things they're telling you they have gone through in the last 2 years from people who are their relatives, people who are within their homes, not even communities. A person says, I can't go anywhere else, but he's my uncle. I can't report to my auntie. So imagine the trauma of those children that are going through that. So mostly we're seeing people going through depression, severe depression, clinically diagnosed depression, mild depression, and moderate depression. The whole range, at least the numbers coming in. Anxiety disorders. People are coming in with a lot of anxiety, substance use. And then the other ones, the bipolar, schizophrenia, have also been exaggerated because of the conditions that were prevailing, because people tried to, when people are in confinement, and then also circumstances of loneliness, even those which were under management have worsened. So people are coming in, people are yearning for help, people do not understand what is happening to them. Some are resistant to the help because they do not know, they believe that this thing cannot fail me, I cannot be this anxious. You cannot tell me that I am depressed. How can I be depressed? The grasp of what actually mental illness is. So a lot of the people are in denial. It's a few of them that get insight into their illnesses and get help so that they can overcome that which is bothering them. So Lynn, I'm sorry, I think I'm going overboard, but if you let me talk about mental health and mental illness, we might spend the whole day. So I beg to leave this for other panelists and other people, participants, and I'll come in as and when you need me to come in. Thank you.
Thank you, Grace and Janet, for the insight. At least now I know what mental health is by definition and mental wellness. The challenges in Uganda, what you have highlighted actually is more scary than the headline. I mean, after the lockdown, one cannot imagine like how bad the situation is. Whereas here in Diaspora, we have resources like there are hot numbers, hotlines where you can call in case you have the challenge and get professional help. I know back in Uganda, that's not possible in most cases. You've said that you're working in 45 centers, Miss Grace. I think that's a big improvement to know that there are some centers out there who are offering the professional help to people who have mental health issues. However, my question is going to be basic as we wait for Lynn to come on board. I don't know, as a layman, at what point do I need to seek help if I'm facing like mental challenges? For instance, if I have anxiety, if I don't know how depression manifests itself, because every other day, anxiety is not like, it's something within us. You are supposed to be anxious sometimes when you are faced something which is not familiar with you, which you are scared about. So at what point do I feel like, okay, this is not normal? Because in most cases, coping is a day-to-day thing. Today you cope, tomorrow you don't cope, and the other day you cope. So ability to cope might also be like normal, or lack of ability to cope. So at what point, Miss Grace, am I supposed to know that this is not normal and I'm supposed to seek medical assistance?
Thank you. Thank you so much, Miriam. I appreciate your question. And I would like to say that, yeah, it's true that out there, out of Uganda, there are a lot of resources. The truth is that the mental health systems and service delivery out there compared to Uganda is way above. There are toll-free numbers that you just call and you speak to a counselor instantly. Where I was, you walk to any medical hub, you will find more than 6 psychiatrists. You find consulting clinical psychologists and psychologists. They're all over. People are already waiting to support you. But when you come to Uganda, the services are very limited. Even the private centers that are being run by my colleague Janet and the other people, you find that it's really takes quite some amount of resources for you to access it. I said that TPO, we are in 47 districts, but I must also tell you for free that our presence in all these 47 districts are determined by donors, by funds that come. And most of these funds that come, they're earmarked, they're ring-fence funds. For example, they will say the funds is coming to address trauma in relation to post-conflict, meaning it's already restricted. You cannot put it in Kampala. You must take it to the northern Uganda or West Nile where there's been post-conflict. So the resources are very limited. But I like the question that you've asked. A layman, my cousins, my mother lived there in the village of Gulu. At what point can they be able to access services? At what point should one say, no, I need to seek help, I need to speak to a professional? It's very easier if I have headache, I can say, I'm having headache, I walk to the hospital. I'm having stomach upset, I will go to the hospital. But with mental health, it's not very easy to say. I want to make it as simple as possible. One is that our definition of mental health is that you are functioning normally. You're having ability to cope, regardless of whatever challenges you're faced with in life, COVID, no work, economic hardship, school fees challenges, you are coping as a human being. You're able to positively cope. You're living in a manner that the way you're managing those challenges are not being negative or dangerous. At what point should you now say that, no, I think something is not right? One is that I'm going to look at the general aspect of a human being that gets affected by mental health challenges. One is the mood. One of the greatest aspects of a human being that gets affected by any of the mental health disorder is the mood. You find that your mood changes. A person who was normally happy starts becoming either a little bit unhappy or a little bit isolated or starting to have a lot of worries. Or someone who, sometimes it's the opposite, someone who is a bit quiet and withdrawn, you start coming out more of, excessively wanting to be out there to interact and talk to people. So the changes in mood, when you notice a change in your mood or the mood of a person around you, and when I say change, it means there is something that that person had not expressed before. It's not who they are or it's not what they are. It is something new that you're seeing come up. It's something new that you're starting to experience. And Miriam, this thing builds over time. These symptoms build over time. They don't start overnight. By the time you start realizing that you have become isolated, you're a bit sad, your emotions are uncontrollable, it means that it's been some period of time of you going through it and your body internally trying to fight it, because every human being is resilient. The second aspect of a human life that mental health disorders affect is a behavior. We have, every society has a definition of a normal behavior, a behavior that is accepted by the norms and the values of a specific society or a community, or even a family values. But in this case, you start to notice that Grace's behavior is not what she used to have before. And what I want to repeat again, that this behavior has to be something that is not what he or she used to do before. For example, a father or a husband who takes 1 or 2 beers every evening and come back home okay, and they're fine. But all of a sudden, you start to notice that they're coming back home drunk in the aspect of staggering, drunk in the aspect of they cannot remember what they said or what they did yesterday. That's a behavior that is starting to come. It's a new behavior that is not theirs. Another example could be, you start to realize that a woman who is happy, who loves to take care of home and her home is well organized, you come back home and you find things are all over. They're so disorganized, food is not cooked. They're either all the time in bed or they have lost so much. The behavior that you're seeing is not what they used to be. It can be any behavior. Anything, any behavior that is not present, that person used not to express, that is an indicator that something is wrong in regards to the person's wellness. The next one is thinking. The third aspect of it is thinking. Every human being, we are built to positively think, regardless of what difficulties that we are faced with, even in times of death. As we prepare to bury, we still hope in faith. We still run to God. But you find that a person's thinking, the cognitive aspect of it change. That thinking either becomes illogical. From logical thinking, from a positive and abstractive thinking, it gets to illogical thinking. They think in a manner that even what they say, you cannot relate to it. Even if you try to compare it with the values and even try to test it using the reality that exists. So this changes in thinking. This when you start to notice this. For example, we have people who are called narcissistic, people who have narcissistic personality. These are people who are full of themselves. It's all about them. If I'm that kind of person and everything I do is me, I am pretty, I am good at it, and I don't care about people, that's okay. But for example, if such a person's thinking starts to change, even negative about themselves, I can't do it. I cannot manage. The problem is mine. The fault is mine. Such changes in thinking, these are times that you need to realize that something is wrong. And then finally, I want to say that all these changes in your mood, in your behaviors, and in your thoughts has to be something that is affecting your daily life. It has to have impact on a person's day-to-day life. You very well said, Miriam, that we get stress every day. That's true. We get challenges every day. We cope very much. I keep telling my people and my family and friends that I fear myself. I think my resilience level is so high that even when I'm faced with the difficult life, I tend to bounce back very fast. That is resilience. That is who we are as human beings. Meaning, regardless of all these changes in mood, thinking, behavior, if it is not affecting a person's daily functioning, if it's not affecting a person's daily interactions, if it's not affecting a person's daily work or relations or everything that they do as a human being, we can still say this person is coping. Like I said, I'm an advocate for wellness. I normally encourage people using the resilience within themselves to cope. But if it gets to a point where it has started affecting one or two or more of one's daily aspect of life, then that is the time for us to seek help. And don't wait until it's too late. When you start to notice changes in your sleep, changes in your appetite, changes in the way you think, you're becoming very negative. You don't recognize so many positive things around you. When you start to notice that your self-care is starting not to improve. You're not appreciating even the work you do at school, the lit at work. Even your children complimenting you don't take it positively. If you see that the life around you is changing in regards to your mood, your behaviors, and your thinking around perspective things, please seek out help. It doesn't hurt, Miriam. It really doesn't hurt to just talk, to just say, hey, this is what is happening. What do you think? Talk to a friend, talk to your pastor, talk to your priest, talk to your mentor, speak to your sister, speak to your brother, speak to someone. When you talk to someone, that person will have a different perspective compared to yours. Thank you.
Yeah, you've highlighted most importantly, basically what, that it doesn't hurt to talk. Even if you are doubting like what you are going through, if you reach out to someone, they can easily explain that maybe this is normal, this is something you need to work on or seek professional help. I'm gonna keep on, I want to highlight a few questions we had. Lynn is still trying to get back with us. So either Grace or Janet, anybody can answer this. Another challenge that came up with the Ugandans in diaspora is the long working hours. We all know that to be well health-wise, one person is expected at least to have good sleep, maybe minimum hours of 6 or 8 or whatever. But the working hours among the diaspora community, most people work 2 hours, and you find like you're sleeping 2 hours. Work 2 jobs and they are sleeping like 2 hours, or either you're studying, you're working, or you're trying to make ends meet because of the high financial expenses and all that. So how is one supposed to cope when you have that challenge? You must work, or you must do whatever you are doing, be it studying and working or taking care of your family, but at the same time you need to take care of your health. What is someone expected to how are you expected to juggle that and stay mentally well when you are when you don't have enough sleep or enough time to take a break and recharge yourself?
Miriam, thank you so much for that submission. Just going, before I go to how are you meant to handle, I want to go back to what Grace said, just briefly. And I want to emphasize just 2 things that she said, that there has to be a change, okay? There has to be a change. That means there was something that was known and then it changed. There's movement from that person's behavior, person's thoughts, person's attitude, person's emotions. Okay, and then she said something about if you notice yourself that there's change in this, which most cases the person does not notice, because most of those emotions and thoughts are expressed in behavior. So it is the people that are around that person that usually notice the changes. So yes, if you have that insight, if you are aware of yourself and you notice there is a change, please speak to someone. But also, if the person has not noticed that there is change, the people around them should take that effort to either bring the changes to the person's attention or to seek help for that person, or to actually engage, make themselves available to that person so that maybe that person can get them the help. Okay, so what do you do when you have all these life hustles? You have work to do and you just have, there's no alternative, you have to do the work. You're working 22 hours out of 24 hours in a day. And it is something that you have to do. And in addition to that, you're lonely, You feel like your life is all about work. You feel like if it's not work, then what are you doing there? And then if it is not that, it basically your life turns around to only that. So simple thing, Miriam, if you're not alive, the work that you're doing a lot, the one you're trying to get some resources to take care of yourself, to meet the expenses of your living, to take care of your loved ones. If you're not healthy, basically, if you are in a state where you're incapacitated, that resource won't come in handy. It won't help. You won't actually get that resource. You'll be unable to work. So first thing, even when you're hustling, be kind to yourself. Determine what is that working to you. You're working for all this. To what end? To you as a person, as Miriam, to you as a person as Lynn, to you as a person as Janet, that I'm doing all this working. Yes, some people, I keep telling people, there is no trophy for being the most hustler. At the end of the day, if the most hustler goes under, there's no trophy. There's no one who is going to clap for you that when they're giving when they're sending you off and say she was the most hardworking person and the hard work killed her. It is not that. It is that which you have put placed the value on. So what am I saying? Take a nap if you need to, even if it's a 5 to 10 minutes nap in your very busy schedules. Love on yourself, even when you're hustling. Know when this time around, Miriam, I need me time. Even if that me time is in the washroom, even if that me time is you blacking out everything else, even if that me time is stopping people's demands on you, because the demands will not cease. Someone will always want or seek something from you. But if you are that person, if you can allow everyone else to get something from you, what are you getting from it yourself as Miriam? Okay, I appreciate the fact that people out there are really working hard. I did my master's in Sweden, and I was there for that period of time. And people would say, if I wasn't in class, at least I was sleeping. But I would have colleagues who would work when they were not in class. They would still be at the workplace, and then the next day in the morning, they have to be. A person comes with their child to class, a 2-week child to class, and they put them in the pram at the corner, and then they go after school. They have all these things to do. There's so much work going on there. And I applaud you guys for doing that. But I always say, what does it mean to you? You're working hard. What is the purpose of your working hard? You as an individual, because you are the one who is going to make these resources. Okay? Love on yourself. Loving on yourself can be as simple as telling yourself good things, applauding yourself, re-energizing yourself. If you need a break, you take a break. If you need to talk to someone, you seek that person out. I know there are issues also because diaspora. People will say, I can't let my weaknesses be seen by another. There is that unhealthy competition in the diaspora out there. I'm not saying it's for everyone, but at least I have a fair grasp that people will say, Naja Kukola, I'm this side to hustle. Don't tell me your things. But at the end of the day, you cannot say that all those people are not there for you. There will always be someone who is genuinely out there, who is willing to listen to you. So you seek to speak to that person. If it's something that makes you happy, create time for it. If it's something that will give you the happiness, create time for it. Even if the time is not to the extent that you want, at least have the satisfaction of knowing that you did something for yourself. with the end game of it being making you happy. Okay, then if work is all you have, I'll ask Miriam, if you know, because I keep saying people are we going to just work, then after we work we die? Then what would be the essence of working? So even when you're working, in the process of working, seek out that which is for you. Selfishly, seek out that which will make you happy. So maybe Grace can add from there, but that is my submission on that point.
Thank you so much, Janet. You know, Miriam, I always tell people that self-care is selfishness. You must be selfish to be able to practice self-care. If you don't know what being selfish is, then you cannot practice self-care. And why do I say it's being selfish? Because self-care means putting aside everything else that you need to do, but saying that right now is the time for grace. I am just going to sit here. I have proposal to review. I have a meeting to attend. I have to call my mom and check on how she's doing. I have to make sure that I reach out to my sister, but no, I'm not. That, you have all those things that you need to do, and they're really important that you must do that. But you get to a point and you're like, no, at this time, it's going to be me. I'm just going to sit and watch my movies. And I'm going to watch my movies for the next 1 or 2 hours. And when I'm done, I will take a walk and then come back and shower and then sit into that proposal. Or I'll call mommy after I've done that. Or I'll check on my child at school after. That is selfishness. And if we can be able to practice that, which will relate to self-care, then I think my brothers and sisters who are in the diaspora will be able to work around these long working hours. By the time a person leaves their country, their home country, and goes to another country, the sole reason for going is one: better life. Nothing else. Better life. And that can only be achieved through working hard and hard and hard. But like Janet said, at the end of it all, what is the impact of that work that you're doing? The better life you're creating for who? Is it for you, for your child, for your loved ones that you've left home? When you come back in a box, in a casket, because you are not able to take care of yourself, because with time you became robotic, you are unable to be able to manage your work-life balance, and you resorted to drugs, and drugs have taken your life. Is that going to be a better life for your people back home? If you've gotten to a point where you can't sleep until you take a pill, is that still better life? My definition of better life is that you are living normally. You're able to sleep, at least I normally encourage working class, at worst, sleep for 4 hours. At worst. Sleep for 4 hours. I find it very difficult to sleep for more than 4 hours, but when I can sleep even for 10 hours like a log. But if at worst, you cannot get the 6 hours that is highly recommended, take the 4 hours. It will not kill. Because those 3-4 jobs that you're running, the moment you leave one, or the moment you get admitted in hospital, they're getting another person to replace you and to step in immediately. So I just want to say 1 or 2, 3 things that you can do on your fingertip, added on to what Janet said. Please set time. Set time for work. When I graduated as a fresh graduate in my first degree, I went straight for master's. Studied my master's for 1 year and then got a job, a part-time job. So I was a full-time student and then also working. Class from 5 to 8 p.m., work from 8 to 4. I went into a crisis. But one thing that worked for me was that a mentor took me through to set time. Set time for work, set time to rest, set time for friends, set time to cook, set time to clean, set time to take care of yourself, set time for a walk, Set time. And when you set those times, don't mix it up. My colleagues at my workplace and my staff that I supervise, they know that. I don't mix up time that I've set up. If I've set up time to have meetings with Janet between 9:30 and 10:30, I will focus to have that time with her. And if I'm done with that, I move on to another thing. But if you start mixing, your working hours supposed to be for 8, you're working for 10 or 9 hours, you're affecting the other thing that you're supposed to do in the next hours. So please set up time, set time and stick to it. If they say you're supposed to work for 11 hours, perfect, that's okay. Work for the 11 hours. After the 11 hours, let's say that is from 8 a.m. to up to 6 p.m. After 6, work, leave it. Whatever you've done, whatever you've not finished, leave it there. The next time from 6 p.m. to about 10, 11, what are you doing? If you're sitting in a bus to go home, in that bus, don't be working. Don't start looking for clients. In that bus, listen to music. Chat with the neighbor who is seated next to you. Read a novel in your phone. Okay? Go on TikTok, look at those funny dance styles, It's very, very important that you do that. Not even knowing how many hours you're working. And then when it's time to sleep, let it be time to sleep. Practice sleep hygiene. This is very important for you, my brothers and sisters who are in diaspora. Practice sleep hygiene. Don't carry this gadget to your bed. Don't carry the laptop on your lap that you're going to watch movies to catch sleep. That is not sleep hygiene. Watch movies from your living room, from wherever you're seated. When it's time for you to go to bed, walk into your bed, switch off the light. Even without sleep, enter bed. Sleep will come. You cannot start saying that I'll attract sleep through chatting on WhatsApp or through watching movies on my laptop. That is not sleep hygiene. Okay? If it's time to reunite with Ugandans who are in diaspora, do that. If they're meeting for a whole day and you're only able to make 1 hour for them, within that set 1 hour, utilize it. Reach there, keep your phone in your bag, take pictures, take selfies, but interact with them. Set time and follow it. It's very important. Spend the time as you've set it. And then Janet talked about taking a nap. Still time. I normally tell people, still some time within all those working hours that you're doing. Within the working hour, you could have about 15 or 30 minutes of lunch break. You could have 30 minutes of tea break, and then 30 minutes of lunch break. Still that time. If it's lunch break, it's lunch. Don't be checking on which generator is on, who has not moved. No. Even though you don't have lunch to eat, let it be your lunch. Just sit. Sit and you're not doing what. Don't do what you are doing that you've taken a break from. That is what I mean by stealing hours in between those work. That 30 minutes for tea, carry your cup of tea and sip it slowly for the 30 minutes. If you're chit-chatting, if you're talking with colleagues, don't let it be on consulting what you failed to do on your desk. No. Let it be on just how are you coping? By the way, the COVID situation is coming down, I'm happy. Let it be something totally outside work. That is how our brain works. Your brain will relax in that few minutes. You're giving yourself rest. And then naps. Naps are very powerful, by the way. Even though you take it for only 2 minutes, it has a very great contribution compared to the 6 or 8 hours sleep that you'll take at night. So in those breaks, steal the naps if you can, because you really, really need to energize. You really, really need to make time. And then the next thing is that make time for other things outside work. Janet talked a lot about this. Please enjoy your money that you're working. Go to the mall. Go out there to the mall, walk on those beautiful streets. One thing I like about some of those countries out there is how beautiful the streets are. You find one tree is having 3-4 different colors, There's so many parks where you can just go walk for free. There's a lot that you can do. So make time for yourself. The work that you're doing is to contribute towards you and your family, but enjoy it now. Get the little money that you save. You know, I have so many family outside there in the diaspora, and sometimes when I listen to them talk, I'm just like, I really feel so sorry for you. All they do is work, accumulate and send. Work, accumulate and send. What are you doing to yourself? You think those people who are back home here will not survive without you? If you die today, God forbid, have we really started to think that in the time that I'm not there, how will people survive? If I don't send that $100 or that $200 at home, am I going to hear that all of them have died out of anger or they have not been able to survive? No. People will always find a way. Now, you who is making life better for them, you need to be able to first make life better for you. Take care of yourself, and then ensure that you're providing for also others. So practice some level of selfishness. And then be intentional about having life that is not work. Have friends around you. If you don't have friends, look for communities of people that you come from the same country with. Look for community of people that practice the same religion that you do. Miriam, if you have a life that is outside work, you will be forced to make time for that. If you're not married, get into a relationship, but date the right person. Okay? Don't go for anybody who comes because you need to be in a relationship. No. Okay? Have some kind of life. Be intentional. Make friends. Invest in social capital. That is going to force you to make sure that in your business schedules, you balance time to see Lynn, you balance time to see Miriam, you balance time to call Grace. But if you don't have any life outside work, it becomes very difficult to even adjust, because life out there, you are alone. Your mother is not there, your father is not there, you don't have your relatives. Most of you who are out there don't have relatives. Very few are lucky to have family around. So what else can you do is work. And you resort to only work because you have not chosen to build a life outside work. But if you create life outside work, make your home, make a family in the space where you are, it will force you to balance between work and to pay attention to that life that you've built outside work. Thank you very much, Janet.
Thank you so much. That was very, very deep and very insightful. And honestly, Miriam, I think we have the right people today telling us exactly how we ought to deal with our mental challenges. And the way you two dive into self-care is very deep. It is very, however, it worries me because self-care comes with the thought of somebody has become too selfish, yeah? And so you are into yourself, you're doing you're literally looking out for yourself, and then chances are you drop people off along the way, and you're labeled antisocial, you're labeled unavailable, you're labeled all sorts of things. I want to ask you, Janet and Grace, how do you balance the two? How do I look out for myself, but also making sure that people around me don't think that is something else altogether?
That's a wonderful question, Lynn. And there is a tendency for people to think that when we're advocating for self-care, we're advocating for people to cut off friends. That is not true. Okay, that is not true, because as we said, that you nurture the social circles that are feeding into you. Okay, if people drop off eventually, were they feeding into you? Because when I'm telling you, Lynn, look for the family in your neighborhood, as long as they make it in your community. identify with people that you identify with. Be intentional. Okay? We are not saying that you drop all your friends, that you be selfish entirely to the level of, because we know social capital is important. You know, we know belonging, a sense of belonging is important. Okay? But also the excessive need to please. That is where you're saying that when people say that we've chucked them, we've left them out, we've done what? Who are those people? You have to question and say, who are those people? Because when I say quality over quantity, that at the end of the day, your mental health is not suffering just for your excessive need to feel like you have people around you who, when you need them, at that moment of need, the people that you have been feeding into are not there to feed into you. So intentional is the word. Be intentional about belonging, or be deliberate about the circles that you nurture. Okay? Be deliberate on what you're putting out. It is work. It is you using your brain to know, okay, if I need to invest into my friend, this person friend, okay, what is in it there for me? Have you ever been the giver, all the time the giver? You know, you give. Who is feeding into you? Okay, if you get your gratification from giving, okay, what is it that you are aiming to get from the giving? Because you say, okay, I'm an empath, I'll be feeling sorry for everyone, I'll give everyone. Is that really what you want for you? What is that complements that way of giving? Okay, is it that I feel good when they're around me? Are they around you? Do they actually show up for you? Okay, so we are not advocating for, yes, we are advocating for selfishness per se, but the people that are important to you will stick to your life. Another thing, Lynn, is people usually have expectations of people who are in the diaspora. They believe that when you're in the diaspora, you're just going to go and get everything. So basically, you become a source. Your humanness is lost to them. I'm not saying to all, but most. Your humanness is lost to them, and they only look at you as your source of provision, as your source of provision to them. One thing that I keep telling people in the diaspora, that you also need to know who are like the people that the expectations that people have of you, you know, can you meet them? So do you think you will give people and they will be satisfied? That you will be at one point X, that I have worked so hard, I have given all my people that are dependent on me, and then they're satisfied. You know, I have reached that mark, X. So that's why we say, okay, you know, it will be endless. The need for resources will be endless. Are you going to chase that until you can't chase anymore? So why don't you be a little selfish? You know, first cater for you. If it's nurturing, if it's you going out with your friends that makes you happy, Lynn, do it. If it's being alone that makes you happy, do it. Okay? If it is, because at the end of the day, you need to be healthy to fulfill all other people's expectations of you. It starts with you. You cannot say that you are part of a union all the time. At one point, you start with an individual. You are an individual, then an individual extends him or herself to the circles around them. Then the other thing that Grace didn't talk about, the other thing that I wanted to add to what Grace was talking about is the quality of our thoughts. Trying to be deliberately positive and grateful. That even in that long hustle that we are in, that like the never-ending hustle, if we only know, we keep reminding ourselves of the goodness that at least is coming out there, you know, not to negate the hardships, the burnout, the whatever, but you look for the moments that feed into the happy hormones, you know, the moments within your thoughts. You know, you take a pause and you say, okay, positive psychology, you say, okay, yes, I am so exhausted, I feel like I'm working every day, you know, I have no social life, but at the end of the day, you look for that positive, you know, a little bit of positive, or you turn around your thoughts when they're going on a path of negativity, that you be able to control your thoughts. And this is a deliberate effort, okay? So self-care is selfish to people who do not understand it, but self-care is important to you as an individual. Grace, please take it on from there.
Self-care is not about doing things alone or being alone. I like the way Janet brought it. Yeah, self-care is about, regardless of what you're doing it for you, not for anyone. If you're paying school fees, you're paying because you get a gratification out of it. You're not paying it because the society or family demands that you pay. Okay? So self-care is about doing things that you're doing for you that is not being demanded of anyone, or you're not doing it for any other person. So there are so many activities around self-care. It can be like spending time with girlfriends. That is self-care. It's self-care. You're not alone. I do that a lot. We drive off from Kampala and go maybe to Fort or Kasese. It's a tiring weekend. You run around, you drink here and there, and you chat. I am building my friendship. That is self-care. Joining a book club, joining a Rotary club, going for worship, taking a walk, talking to the neighbor. All those are activities around self-care. What is important is that we need to understand that when we talk about self-care, we are looking at you being able to do something that it's for you, and it's you that wants to do it. It's contributing towards you. You're not doing it because Lynn wants you to do that. Now, let me give you an example. Miriam is going to laugh. Miriam reached out to me, I think about a month ago, to join this show on the first phase. I told her, no, I am busy. I can't do that. My schedules are full. Let me recommend for you a colleague. Again, sometime last week, she reached out, and asked, our second phase of the show is coming this Saturday. Can you join? What did I tell you, Miriam? I told her, yeah, I can join. My Saturday is open. I had scheduled Saturday for rest. This is what I told her. I had given my Saturday to rest, do nothing. So to sit on CCG and speak about mental health, it's me. It's what I love. It's not, I'm not doing it for anybody. I'm doing it for me. So it is self-care. You get it? Eh? So it's not about like be alone, go away from friends, close out people. Even just speaking a phone call. My greatest self-care is talking to my mom. My mother is 78. I am her last born. But when you hear us speak, you might think I'm speaking to my girlfriend. I call her my father's girlfriend and she calls me my father's daughter. So it can be any activity that you choose to do, but it has to be something that you're doing it for you. It's contributing for you. It's not because that the society demands it, another person wants you to do it, or maybe because you want to impress somebody. No, those are the things that we do every day. Everything we do every day is to meet society expectations. Is to meet what is expected of us as a daughter, as a mother, as a sister, a friend, and all that. But self-care is doing what you expect of yourself, what contributes to you. When you choose to go to the salon, that is self-care. When you choose to go to the mall, don't let it be to shop food. Go buy a handbag, do some window shopping. I do that a lot. I go where I love handbags and nice shoes, and I go where there is makeup. It is self-care. You get it. You're still interacting. You're still within the space that involves everyone else, but everything that you're doing is for you. It's contributing for your care, and it's making you, contribute for what you like. That's just what I want to add on to what Janet has said. Thank you.
Right. Thank you very much. Miriam, you have had, I feel like we are in a session, a therapy session, and it's very, very interesting. But Miriam, you and your colleagues and fellow Africans in the diaspora, most people are not, are not well acquainted with the idea of therapy. And we notice that anything mental illness is an African. We have to agree it is taboo, it is embarrassing and stigmatizing. Before we can ask Grace and Janet and on how we can incorporate therapy into all these things, I want to understand, Miriam, how is it like for you people in the diaspora when it comes to therapy? Because most of them are afraid of stigma attached to psychology and psychotherapy.
I think that's something we have to keep talking about and create awareness and know that the brain and your mental well-being is also part of your health. If it's okay to go and have a checkup about your blood pressure or whether you have COVID or not, why can't you go and have a checkup whether you have depression or anxiety disorder or something else? But as you said, how do we break the stigma? How do we break the stigma about mental illness? I would also suggest that we maybe try with the naming. When someone has a mental issue, why do they call them moralu? That you are crazy. You know, that thing, like if you got the mental hospital and earlier on, Janet had said that mental treatment or mental health is continuum. Like if you have, say, a depression disorder, it's not going to go away. You're going to have to control it, but you need to seek medical attention once in a while. But you see what we fear, especially for us Ugandans, but I found out that it goes deep, actually, even into African Americans. We have like superstitious feeling about mental illness. We have these beliefs. Actually, here they say, for Grace and Janet, I'm in USA, and they say that black doesn't crack. I mean, they say like illness is like disorders, the bipolar and whatever, that those are a disease for white people. Even the medical practitioners, by the way, they believe that those are diseases of white people. Black doesn't crack. But yet, we are human. We are all human, and we suffer the same way. We are sensitive in the same way, and the disease that affects other people affect all of us. But how do we break that stigma? How do we create that understanding? Say that we also accept that mental illness is a normal thing, that we should also seek medical attention whenever we feel something is not okay. Lynn and Grace and Janet, that's food for thought for all of us. I can't say that we can do it this way or whatever, but I feel having such a debate as this, having continuous attention to the issue, talking about it, breaking it down and making everyone understand it to their own level, whether you are educated, whether you are not, whether you are, for instance, how will my mother understand depression? Does she even know the word? Do we have a local word for depression, anxiety? All those things are still out there, and I think the mental health is something that is not tapped into and explored extensively to be broken down deep into our community. So we still have a challenge. I would like to hear from Grace and Janet, like, how do I explain to my mom that she has depression, or I have depression and I'm seeking medical care? Because I don't even know the local word for the thing. So, but to go back to what you have discussed there about self-care, there is another issue which I think I should bring to our attention. Here in diaspora, especially, beer and drugs are very cheap and very accessible. So when we do self-care, we tend to end up overdoing it. I mean, we end up drinking all night, partying all night, but on the wrong stuff. So here they call things like weed and whatever recreational, and they are accessible. Every state has now opened. I mean, they say they have health benefits. And when people overwork, this is actually very serious. Like when you are working 18 hours, your body breaks down. So you find things like back pain are chronic among the diaspora community. You find things like headache are chronic because people don't have time to rest and recover physically. So these things tend to be wished out by engaging, by taking stuff like painkillers, CBD, whatever. And sometimes people end up being addicted. So how do we balance, or how do we do away with such a type of self-care and recreation?
Right. Interesting, Miriam, that you highlight those. They're very common, and interesting, African countries want to take on these things as well, recreational, whatever they call it. But I would want to hear from Grace and Janet on reacting to what you have brought up, but I also want them to tackle the issue of seeking therapy. Therapy is not only just walking into a physician's office or a psychologist's office and be like, I think I need to talk to someone. Therapy also involves medication, different medication for different mental challenges. And most, it is an African. I want us to agree that it is an African, it is embarrassing, it is stigmatizing. Yes, we have different rehabs around coming up. I mean, people are starting to say, I'm going to rehab, and we are not cringing at the thought of it. How do we familiarize ourselves with the idea of seeking therapy?
Thank you, Lynn. Miriam asked a question and said, how do I tell my mother that she has depression? How do I explain that to her? Lynn, the other word for therapy is treatment. That's what we need to know. So it's actually treatment. When you say therapy, people think you're going to talk to someone, you have to open up and tell people about yourself and your family. And no, therapy is treatment, colleagues. Let's say this out very clearly. Now, treatment can be anything. I totally agree with you, Lynn. When we look at the African setting and you talk about mental health related treatment, people are like, are you okay? Do you even have, do you know what you're talking about? These things we don't see them. We don't experience them. Those are things for the white. But in real sense, it's not things for the white. We all get all these mental health related challenges. And there are a few things that Miriam said that I like talking about it, normalizing the discussion, but most of all, finding corrective words. The words like mulalo. I didn't know what butabika means until a week ago, when we were for the Uganda National Mental Health Conference, and someone raised it and they told me the meaning of butabika. Now, as the activism in me, I want to start advocating for the change of the name of that hospital. Because some of these words, when we talk about them, they already make people not feel comfortable identifying with. But most of all, what I want to bring up, Lynn, is that the way these different mental health related disorders present is very highly common to what we believed in the African traditional society as a way of either the forefathers or the gods presenting or communicating or punishing or reprimanding someone that has not done something wrong, although not done something correct, I mean to say. For example, if you give an example of schizophrenia. Schizophrenia is a psychotic disorder. It comes with loss of sanity. A person, most cases, loses touch with the real world. Their behaviors become abnormal. We find a person wandering away from home, or people sometimes talking to themselves, or writing a lot, or even some of them becoming violent or removing clothes. Now, when you see this, and you read it to the traditional African society, it's similar to, by the way, one time I went to a shrine. I wanted to know what happens in a witch doctor's house. So I had a stepsister who believed in witch doctor and said she has not been sleeping and the spirits of her late husband has been coming over her. And she has an appointment to go to the witch doctor so that the spirits are cast away. I asked her, can I come? She said, yes. And Lynn, I wanted to go there and see how is the spirit cast out of her. Okay, so we reach there and this lady starts to pour her stones, and then before I know, they bring out drums and with calabash, and they start singing and making very loud sound with the drum and singing. And then she removed her top, sat there, topless, and after some time, I saw she started shaking. Before I know, she was dancing, dance, and then ran and went and fell, and they're like, the spirit is out. Now, really, me and you knows. Me and you knows that, music communicates to the brain. and it intrigues a reaction. Lynn, if I subject you to very nice music that you like, with time, and I keep increasing the volume, before you know, you're going to start shaking your head. You start shaking your hand, and you get up and you start dancing. And then, you know, for her, she danced and ran and fell, and the spirit has gone out. Now, this is similar to how some of these mental health disorders present. For us, they're like, no, in the African traditional society, we have a way that the gods communicate. We have a way that the gods punish people. So when you see a person who is presenting with a mental health disorder, this person could have disobeyed the gods, or let's take them for cleansing. That is also one of the greatest challenge that could be facing the response to treatment. I was lucky, I was part of a study that was looking at mental health and African women. It was an NGO in South Africa that was doing it. We did the study for the whole of 2020. It was an online study. It was very interesting. And one of the things that came out very greatly is the fact that presentation of mental health disorders are very closely related to the traditional society beliefs and how things present in the mind of our society. Now, if we can be able to normalize talking about these things, if we can be able to, you know, give them names that understand, this would help. But I want to share a very personal experience in regards to when Miriam said that, how do you explain to your mom that she has depression? My 78-year-old mother has dementia, okay? My mom started showing signs of dementias in 2016, at the time when we lost my dad, and we didn't pick it so much. I was in Nairobi. I just came for burial 1-2 weeks, and I left, and everybody ran back to their normal work, and we left the poor woman in Gulu. So I came back after 3 months, after repeatedly her household telling us, Mom is not okay, Mom doesn't sleep, she sits for so long watching TV. I came after 3 months, and I found she had lost almost quarter her weight, okay? And I came and found she had stopped going to church. I came and found she had even asked the women group that used to gather in our home for daily saving to change their sitting place, that she was not comfortable with them. I came and found she had become alone. She loved to sit alone. She would just sit at her veranda in the morning to evening, and that is it. So I picked concern. I started having interactions with her, you know, and in my head, I was like, something is wrong with Mom, but I couldn't put my hand directly on it. I was afraid to even think and accept that she could be having depression as a result of the grief that she was going through. I stayed with her for a week. Unfortunately, I went back to Nairobi. I came back in December, and I met a totally different mother. I came back, I found if she wants to call Grace, she will call 5 different names before she can call Grace. I started to notice she started losing things. And the things that she loses, they're really not lost. She could have placed them in this place, but she can't remember where she has placed it. So she starts to say they're lost. Okay? Between July and December, we changed 3 households. My mom had been very consistent with her household, but all the household would leave with the complaint that they are being accused of stealing. Okay? But when later on you realize they have not stolen anything, the poor woman had just forgotten where she put her money or put her things. And then she says that you have stolen. And then I came and I noticed she started talking about things of the past, things that happened when I was about 15 years. She would talk about them like they happened last week, like they happened yesterday. Then I noticed she started having faint memory of her recent discussion. You talk to her in the morning. When you try to do a follow-up in the afternoon or in the evening, it's like you've not talked to her about anything. Now, that's when I got concerned. I called my elder brother. I said, I think we need to do an assessment on Mommy for mental health. He flipped. He told me, are you mad? Are you sick? Are you okay in your head? You with your studies, you now think everybody's sick. I told him, why don't you come home and observe her? Now, to cut it short, Miriam, what happened with time is that the way I had to communicate, by the way, they left it for me to communicate to communicate to her, not only her, even to my siblings, to let them understand and accept for us to put my mom on treatment, was that I used the symptoms, the changes that had occurred in her. Okay? I made them realize what she was before that, and now the behaviors, the changes that they were noticing. And it started with my sisters. One of them became actually very depressed and concerned about that. Mom doesn't even remember when I talked to her on phone, and for she's out of the country. It became very bad for her. So looking at the changes that occurred and what she was presenting with, it made it easier for my siblings to understand. But even for her, I could not explain for her the changes, but I kept letting her realize some of these things that are happening. One time she went to the market, which is on about 10 minutes away from our home, and she got lost. She couldn't find her way back home. She walked 3 hours away from home. By the time she came back a little bit to her senses to realize, she was 3 hours away from home and she could not tell how to come back. So she just mentioned the name of my brother, one of my elder brothers who is popular. And a brother just said, Mom, let me take you home. They carried and brought her. That disturbed her. I traveled, I went now. I sat with her and I started explaining to her, one, the stage of life that she's in, her age, okay, given her age, I explained to her the stages of human growth and development. As a person, a child, and then all these energies, and then I came to old age and I started explaining how all this life ability starts to deteriorate. And part of the things that deteriorate is your memory in the way you think. Miriam, I can't tell you we have reached there yet, but I can tell you that it has helped. My mom was so frustrated for the first 2 years that she kept losing weight throughout. But after that, a little bit of understanding came in and she started to recognize and say, it's not my weakness. It is not my fault. I'm not doing this intentionally, okay? It's a process in life and it's a sickness. And when she started a little bit accepting that and we put on brain supplements, dementia, you can't treat it, can't heal, you only manage it with supplements. Put on brain supplements and at least I see now she's happier, she goes to church, even she makes fun of her forgetfulness. When you tell her things, she tell you, remember to call me again because I'll forget. You get it? She tells her house help, I hope I've not forgotten that I'm wrongly accusing you. Now you see where we have reached. We have reached in a place where she can be able to recognize it. But it took time. It took me about 4 years to do this. It's actually partly the reason why I left a very good juicy job where I was out of the country and came back to Uganda to settle here, to be able to take care of her. But it didn't take using any professional terms. It didn't take even starting to tell her we need to treat. It took using her life experiences and the changes that she's going through on a daily basis and the experiences that she's expressing with to get us to where we are. To get us to where we are with her, to get us to where we are with my siblings. Right now, they compete on who should order the drugs from Kenya because, unfortunately, with our health system, we don't have some of those supplements here in Uganda. So every month, we bring them from a pharmaceutical company from Kenya. But we're in a place where people have accepted. The woman understands. My mom has no lifestyle disease, no high blood pressure, no diabetes, no nothing. When you look at her, you might think she's 60 years. Very energetic. She walks without a stick, up straight. But the mind, her memories, and it took time for us to understand. So sometimes some of these communicating these mental health related disorders, depending on who we are dealing with. For example, if it's a child, the way you communicate this disorder to a child is not the way you communicate it to an adult. With a child, you have to relate. You have to let them relate to what they're going through, the changes they're experiencing, and how do you think they would feel they want to be, and then that can help you. But if I'm reviewing Lynn, or if I'm doing assessment on Miriam, it's easier to compare and contrast, and then just say, your diagnosis is depression, and then explain both the cardinal symptoms and the clinical symptoms of depression, and you understand and you relate with it, and you're like, yeah, that's how I'm feeling. Then if you go to the old age, it's so difficult because this is a person who used to be independent, provide, do everything. You cannot start telling them that you're not able to do this because of this. You also now have to relate to them like you're explaining to a child. So communicating some of these things, they have cultural implication. But most of all, what I encourage is, who are you communicating it to? Who is the person you want to start the treatment to? Okay? Is it the age? Look at the age, look at your relationship, look at who they were or who they are in the society. It has a lot to contribute towards acceptance of treatment. Thank you, Lynn.
Thank you very much, Grace. That was very insightful and very, very deep. I'm glad that there's improvement with your mother. Janet, we are talking mental wellness, mental challenge treatment and approach and therapy. How does one go about it? How Miriam was asking, how do I communicate to my mother or my father or my guardian that, man, I am depressed. This is depression. How do I go about these things?
Grace has given a very extensive explanation, and it was coming from her as a carer to her mom. Mm-hmm. But most people, the carers, are not as informed as Grace is. Okay, so the best thing to do, that one of the other things to do is to get the care to that point of information where they can understand and relay to their loved ones, because these are the people that are going to be with this person. Mental illness, most of them is in behavior. It's a behavioral disease. I mean, it is manifested in our behaviors. And you cannot be in a clinical setting that, unless the person is inpatient, that I'll watch Lynn, I'll see Lynn placed her phone here and then she forgot it there. But Lynn will be staying with someone. And Lynn will rarely know she has a problem. On her own, she will rarely know that she has a problem. So the carer comes in, the people that are around us, the information to all of us, because you won't know all of us are candidates, our loved ones are candidates to mental illness. So the information out there and the way we should be able to look out, because they keep saying that people are not observant. For example, you pass by a border person, or a border person will pass by you and you won't know the shirt they are putting on. Yet the border person has just passed by you. Or you will live with a gate man for like months and you don't know he has a limp in his step. Chances are you won't. That we are not observant, we are not deliberate about the people that we live with. So one of the things that we can do, all of us, is to be intentional about the people that we live with, our loved ones, the people that are important to us. That you can stand with authority, Lynn, and you say, my sister was like this, and now my sister is like this. So that when it comes to explaining that information, you can ably say, remember when we were like this, and we did this and this, but now you are doing this and this and this. You know their baseline behavior. That takes observation. That takes information, you being informed. The words, the terminologies, we might even not get that terminology in our local languages. Because most cases when we are going for talk shows, maybe in Uganda, you have to first ask, what is mental illness in Uganda? Even in your normal local language, you have to first seek out how best you can present it. But you can know the behaviors and the differing states of behavior. So you as an individual, in your own capacity, educate yourself. Get to know all these things relating to mental health and mental illness. So you can come from that point of, if you're advising a person, you're also not giving them information that will either scare them. Someone tells you, oh, depression, my goodness, you're going to run on the street. You're already freaking out a person who you want to get to help. You want to get the person into help or treatment. But even the information you're giving them is already scaring them or stigmatizing, or the words you're using are already stigmatizing them. So about awareness, Miriam talked about it briefly. And then Grace also hinted on it, stigma. And then I have a different view. Grace, I know, wants to go and fight Mulalu and Butavika. But I want to ask the people that we are discussing with, did HIV/AIDS change a name? Why it didn't change a name? Why are people slowly coming to terms with it? Grace, I know people have come out and say, people fear to come and seek help from the Ugandan hospitals, centers, because they fear that their information will go out there and then people will see them going in and out of the hospitals. So I keep saying, okay, if we are trying to tell these people that it's a normal disease, why are we telling them come to treatment in secrecy? That we should be clear on what we are telling these people. If we are to break the stigma, let the Butabika stay as Butabika, but tell the people that the people who are going to Butabika, it does not mean that those people are incapable of having productive lives. We tell the people that the people going to Butabika are not condemned to living that life, because when a person is on treatment, the person can be productive. The person can gain at least their state that they had lost, come to the state they were at. Even if they don't come exactly to their former state, if the person has been in a severe state, they'll come to a state where they're useful to themselves. That we make it palatable, we make it understandable, we make it normal. That it is not the Butabika, it is not the illness as we perceive it, that you're not cursed once you're mentally ill. That is the point of breaking the stigma. That we say that people who are scared of AIDS, that when you get AIDS, it's not that you're going to die, that you cannot spread it by shaking someone's hand. Okay? So once we take that line of awareness, then we are not condemning the places as per se, or the terminologies. Yes, we can encourage correct terminology, which also is just encourage, because we don't know how people will perceive it. We can encourage, we can use sensitive, mentally health sensitive terminology. But at the end of the day, even in the current sphere, we should be able to tell the people that it is, yes, it might be a chronic illness like diabetes, but does diabetes mean that you're not going to be able to be productive for your family? Something we say, if you get the mental illness diagnosed early and put on treatment, it doesn't mean that you will not be able to fend for your family. Okay? So that is my opinion about stigma and creating awareness in that sense. And by the way, if you realize these days, they are saying that it is trendy for young people to say they are going to therapy. It is becoming trendy. But also, it is also affecting actually the people who actually need help. Because once people are throwing it around, that you need therapy, when someone does bad manners and then they excuse it, you need therapy. So it's also going in a direction that we are creating awareness, but to what? People say you need rehab when you're drinking and they're making fun of it, that you need rehab. Yes, it is there being talked about, but is it in the direction that we want it to? Yes, conversations like this. We need conversations like this more and more, but we also need clarity in such conversations, that when we are telling people to have conversations, what exactly are we asking them to talk about? Mental health and mental illness. Because we are having conversations that are taking the direction that we will not be able to contain. As I've told you, the rehab and therapy. People are doing with their support and they're saying, dude, if you overdo this, or people are popping, young boys and girls are popping pills, but while they are at it, they are not joking about it, that they need therapy and rehab.
Janet, I see Miriam's hand up. I wonder what is itching her now.
Miriam, come in. What is itching?
Yeah, Janet, I want to disagree with you on the naming. You see the word, for instance, the Mulalu word. This is like so ordinary. I think we can't joke with it. When you do something crazy on the ordinary, so I think it's the way we use it. For instance, if you overdo something, they say, hey, ngori mulalu. When the kid is like stubborn or whatever, they say the kid is mulalu. Then there is the when someone is really misbehaving in society, they call them crazy. But when you are sick and then they call it crazy, it's like you are irresponsible. It's like, okay, you are a write-off totally, or you are irresponsible, there is no turn back. I mean, the stigma goes so deep, even in our vocabulary, in our behaviors, that it cuts out the need for medical attention, and it dehumanizes, it kind of, I don't know how to call it, but it takes away that idea that mental sickness, that being mentally sick and crazy, I don't know if I should even call it crazy. Is it crazy for real? That you should, if you are psychotic, it's you are irresponsible, or you are a write-off to society. Yet, if say I call Butabika Hospital like a mental wellness center, I know that I'm gonna go there to be well. I'm not a write-off, or I'm not irresponsible, or I'm not an outcast. You know, I don't know if you get it, but I feel like
I'm getting you, Miriam, and actually some of the things you're saying were addressed in the new act, the Mental Health Act, because of the terms that people are using, the lunacy and whatever and whatever. And I also don't agree when people use the mulalu word, okay? But what I'm trying to say that when we are using the mulalu word, that people will use it, as in they will use it. We're advocating that they shouldn't use it, but they will use it. So I'm telling that person out there who it is being used on or against, okay? For them to know that, okay, so if honestly I am sick, they are degrading me for my sickness and whatever, then I should be in position to know that it's not what is in the word. I don't know if that makes sense. Yes, we are advocating that they take away the derogatory names, they take away the, but some things might not be able to change. Perception might not be able to change immediately. That when they change a name, leave Butabika and name it the National Mental Illness Center, that people will stop associating the people who go there as people who are off, to use the bad word, who are lunatic, So I want the communities to know that the person who is going there, who you are saying is a write-off, is actually not a write-off. He's not been written off. The person that is going to seek help in that place, or asylum, or whatever, those bad words that they're using, that for you to change your perception about the people seeking help for mental ill health is more important than change of the names or the words that are people using against the sick people. Okay, so that is just one way. Yes, I agree, they're derogatory, they are, I even have clients who says, Bangamba ndi mulalu, is a siri mulalu, because the word itself, it ikes, it makes them more even incensed, it makes them annoyed because of what they associate with it. They associate that word to a person who is on the streets, who is running naked, who is eating from the garbage. They associate that word to the last person.
My apologies. We are coming to the end of the show, and
Well,
I want to just. I know it's still very interesting.
I still have an important question, Miss.
Yes, Miriam, you still have an important question, but I want, as we wind up, Janet, I want you to wind up with you still, because you're still on the floor. When they say mulalu, it comes with a lot of things. It comes with a lot of misconception. It comes with a lot of disregard for whatever is used around it. So how do I not take offense? How do I listen deeply to myself and know that I am not mulalu? I feel like this mental issue starts with us individually. Like, I need to sit down and listen to myself. I'm like, okay, so certain things are not going right. Where do I start from? Miriam, your question.
My question is about the spirituality, African spiritualism. Grace hinted on it briefly, but he said that our societal perception of mental wellness relates to our spiritual beliefs and culture. But then I want also to extend it to our religious beliefs. There is a common incident, like say when you have a child and they have like mental wellness issues, we tend to believe maybe they are cursed or something, a spiritual exorcism, like you can take them to church and they get prayed for. Or well, I understand they say, okay, this is, I got it from my classroom, like on social behavioral studies, that having a belief in a superior being, like someone you believe, say in Christianity or Islam or whatever, help someone to mentally balance their lifestyle. But then we tend to associate mental illness with curses, sins, a lot of all that spiritual issues. So how do we know? For example, I can have anxiety and talk to my pastor and they counsel me, because there is great counseling in the church and that relationship which can help you move forward mentally. But how do I know that this issue, where do I draw the line between the health necessity for me to seek medical help, and at what point should I go to my pastor and say, hey, I need some counseling because I'm not coping ABC with the stress and anxiety, or my child is not cast and I don't need a pastor to pray over them? Or how do I mix my faith in my church and my pastor's prayers with the medical? Where do we draw the line and how do we balance that, Miss Grace?
We are out of time, ladies.
Okay, briefly.
Yes.
Briefly, I know we are out of time. There are two things that I want to comment about. There is one where Miriam said that Black don't crack, and also our tendency of the not seeking help as Africans. So I can also point that, I mean, just try to explain that because of that systematic discrimination that has happened to Black people, or the state of social being that we have undergone, that we've had much bigger problems. You know, we've had to deal with all these other, that's disease, the poverty, even in America, because you know, there is that systematic discrimination. So that when you see things that you don't understand, that don't initially incapacitate you, then you think those things do not deserve the same attention as the other things. So that one, Black don't crack, African society, that these things are not un-African, that is a fallacy. And with time, because now people are getting to the levels whereby it's not just enough to have basic needs. You know, it's not enough to just be able to eat and sleep and not have malaria. So that's why they're saying that the white people problems have come to us. We were just not paying attention to them because we had much bigger things. That is one thing. Then I go to Lynn. Lynn says that, how do you know? There is something called self-awareness, Lynn. I keep telling people that you should look at yourself as the biggest project that you will ever execute in your life. So for example, people, when you're going to make a pitch to this company that you want business from, you do all the research about this company. You know the competition out there. You know what they're offering. You know their key selling points. You know everything about that company because you want to win that contract. So what about you? What about you as an individual? That Lynn, if you look at yourself as the most important project that you will ever have in life, then you know the nitty-gritty about you. That you should be able to know, explain your feelings, explain your mood to yourself, not to anyone else. Explain away things that are occurring to you, understand your environment, be aware of the importance of you in that environment, how you interact with that environment, even when you are alone. Know your current, be mindful about your current state. That if you know yourself to that level, okay, that level of you being aware of your being, of your existence, of what you stand for, of who you are, that you will know the deviance when it comes in. You will know the good when it even the goodness, when you know it's too good, when you know it's too bad. You know it has not affected you well, you know it has affected you well. You know you can handle it, or you can't handle it, or you know you will try to handle it. And become aware and accept of yourself. Then African culture beliefs, spirituality. Grace, I leave that to you because, you know, they've told us the time has run out and I feel like we've just started.
Grace, we're winding up.
Thank you. Thank you. In about a minute or so, I just want to say that Miriam, religion is such a great source of hope. Okay, religion is the belief. You know, when we are looking at wellness, there is what in psychology we call the wheel of wellness. The wheel of wellness. It's a wheel, and there are about 8 to 9 components that contributes towards a human being's wellness. For you to define and say that a human being is well, just beyond the absence of disease, but they're thoroughly okay, you look at all that will. And one of the aspects of the wheel of wellness is spirituality, religion. And looking at the aspect of spirituality, they look at the aspect of saying, I believe. Having a belief in anything, either believing in a tree, believing in Christ on the cross, you know, believing in the Quran. As long as a human being has that, that's a person with hope. A human being with hope is a person that can pull through anything. So religion, it's a very big contributing factor towards addressing mental health related issues, because the moment you're able to restore hope in a person, you will build their resilience, they will focus into their treatment, and they will work towards getting back to what they were before that challenge comes. So in my practice, I normally look at religion as one of the factors that can help me contribute towards supporting a person. But there is that aspect that I totally agree with you. A person needs to be taken to see a doctor, and a pastor is saying this person is demon possessed. Let us fast, let us pray. This is my message to them. Our religious leaders, our spiritual fathers and mothers, let us draw the line where we stop. Even God himself says action, faith without action is dead.
It's dead.
As you pray, as you fast, as you lay hands on, let that mother go to hospital and seek help. Why would you easily send them to go treat malaria? And you don't send them to go treat the emotions and the behavior issues that they have. So let's continue to pray. Let's encourage people to subscribe to their religious belief, but let us practice what the Bible or the Quran says. Faith without action is dead. That will put us somewhere. And as I close, Lynn, I just want to message to the Ugandans in the diaspora. One is that it's already hard enough that you're out of your country. That's already hard. That's the truth. Regardless of where you are, what kind of job you're doing, that is already enough difficulties that you're out of your country. You're not within your space of what you really need to have around. Now, build your resilience. Create an environment that can support and nurture your mental wellness. Every health starts with mental health. Everything you do in life starts with mental health, if we go back to the definition of mental health. So be intentional and be purpose about building your mental wellness. But most of all, take care of yourself and enjoy that resources that you're working towards. It shouldn't all be flying out. Miriam and your colleagues, okay? Enjoy the resources. Thank you very much, Lynn, and thank you so much to CCG. Miriam, I will send you the wheel of wellness. I've seen your question. I'll share with you on WhatsApp.
Right. Thank you very much, ladies. It's been a ladies-only panel today, and what a fantastic way to close our mental challenges episode. And it is very, very edifying. Miriam, I need you to make your closing remarks on this, and then we can call it a day.
Wow, yeah, like you said, it was one of the most beautiful. For the first time, we were hosting and the ladies on ratio, and I think we should do this more often. Like all of us, we felt time was not enough, and I wish we had. I think we will have more of these discussions. But thank you, Grace and Janet, especially Janet, who responded at short notice. Thank you so much. Thank you, Grace. Thank you, Lynn. This was very
You're
enlightening.
welcome. Absolutely. Thank you so much. And you will
Impressed
catch
all
us.
of us. Yeah.
Right. There's more conversation if you go to our YouTube channel, that is at Civic Space TV. Your comments and questions there. I'm sure when we get to review, then we can always bring back these conversations because questions keep coming up. People keep saying, this is interesting conversations we need to have over and over. So head to our YouTube channel, that is at Civic Space TV, Facebook Civic Space TV, as well as Twitter, and we can have more and more conversations. I truly believe that a healthy mind is definitely a wealthy mind. I'm telling you. So thank you, ladies. We'll catch you again some other time. I wish you a lovely weekend.